Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, well, welcome, Priya. I am so excited to be joined in this conversation today with Priya. I'm going to let her give you a brief introduction here shortly, but I, as you know, have discovered a community, a conscious community, a really beautiful business model that I feel is the next step in elevating my prosperity, my purpose, my leadership. And so, in that excitement, I've been bringing forward some of the beautiful leaders from that community and just introducing them and letting you have a feel and a tune into this community, this vision, this business model as well. So, Priya's here to share her story, and I just have to say, and I was telling her before we hopped on, she's just so the wisdom that oozes from her, she's just a gem. So if you catch this, like stay till the end because just her presence, it will illuminate so much for you. So welcome, Priya.
Thank you, Tara, so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I loved when we talked earlier and you said, let's share some medicine. And for me, this is really, the conversations that we have, the conscious conversations and the love and the wisdom that we share. For me, it's always medicine. Because in the world in which we
Mm,
live these days, it's not always common to find this medicine and this the desire to share something that is actually bringing hope, that is bringing joy, and that is transforming people's lives. So for me, that is medicine. So thank you so much
mhm.
for having me. I so appreciate being here. For those who don't know me, which might be everybody in your group, of course, my name is Priya.
Maybe.
Uh, I'm a mompreneur. I call myself a disruptive entrepreneur, a disruptive mompreneur. I'm a single mom.
I
I'm
love it.
58 and I started this business 18 months ago and it has completely transformed my life. And the real transformation that happens, and you said it so beautifully in the beginning, is because this is a conscious business model of the future. And I think when I really realized was this what this was, because I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I also have been a mindset coach. I was trained and worked very closely with Bob Proctor. So I have a lot of, I would say, um, wisdom that I gained from that side. And I've been a spiritual seeker. I call myself a spiritual seeker in devotion to the Divine Mother since over 25 years. I went to India. I lived in India. I was a nun. I completely devoted my life to God. And then I got the message that I had to come back and do something in this world that I wasn't meant in this lifetime because I've done this many lifetimes to be living a monastic life. And so I came back, and then my daughter came, my surprise, beautiful gift, my divine gift from the mother. So my daughter came when I was 42, and I was in a relationship that was very beautiful and very spiritual, but it wasn't really at all very grounded in the 3D world. And so I come from Europe. I'm half French, half German. And for me, it has never been about the money, but about the experience. And so the interesting thing is coming to America, I realized that this country is very different, that the support that we have in Europe, and people might say whatever they want about socialism, and this is not a political conversation, but
Yes, yeah.
when we have there is a support system, and so the stress is a lot less no matter what we do. If we have a side business or if we're an entrepreneur or whatever, there is a social net that catches you and that's just there to support you. And
Yeah.
I realized very early on here that this is not the case. So I've
Mhm.
always looked at doing things differently. And I had a lot of different jobs. I worked in corporation, I worked as a manager, I worked with Gaia TV. I did a lot of things just to survive. And then on the side, I always did the conscious part, working with Barbara Marx Hubbard, with Marianne Williamson, with all the thought leaders that for me really meant something.
Mhm.
And what I realized was that I was coming up at 56 years, and I was like, okay, I've done all of this, but I've never created anything that is lasting, like a legacy.
Mhm.
And since I invested all my money back into my business, I realized, oh my God, I don't have a real big retirement fund. You know, people say, if you want to retire, it takes you $1 million. And I'm like, where do you get this from? How do you
Yeah.
how do you make $1 million, especially if you're a single mom or if you follow your passion? Or,
Right.
I have so many friends that are healers, that are um, artists, that are people that have so many spiritual gifts, and they are struggling so much. And I found myself in the midst of, how can I bridge this gap between what I love doing and also creating a legacy for my child, for the future, and for myself, so that I don't have to work till the end of my days. Because when I go to King Supers and see people in their 80s checking out at 10 at night, I always feel, my heart always goes like, oh my God, shouldn't you be at home and enjoying your life? And so
Mhm.
I saw this for many people, and also for myself in this country. And I was like, I want to change that. And so when I found this business, it really checked off all the boxes that I was looking for. I was looking for a conscious business, a business of the future that can only grow, because that's really what I wanted. A
Mhm.
very like how do I say this? Not a bulletproof business, but a business that is independent from the economy, no matter what the political situation is or the economical situation, especially right now. That was really important for me. And a really conscious products that are really serving humanity.
Mhm.
And I've always been very connected to the Divine Mother. And for me, Mother is life. And the first and essential element of life is water. So I've always been connected with the ocean, with water, with I've always been called the water goddess, because I studied Masaru Emoto and then Veda Austin, the consciousness of water, the memory of water, the language of water, all of this. So for me, being in a business that is all about conscious health and water was as if the Divine Mother said, okay, I'm going to take you into another level, which is very 3D in this world. But at the same time, you can use all your spiritual gifts and all your insights and all your wisdom that you have gained and be yourself and just bring this business about. And so I started a year and a half ago on the site, and I have the transformation that has happened has just been extraordinary. And I'm sure I mean, I know this is true for everybody, because the
Yeah, it is.
transformation is from the inside out. The water transforms us with its consciousness and its purity. And then we also transform outside, because we become the best version of ourselves to help and serve humanity and really bring forth a message and a gift to them, which is this gift of hope, of the business of the future in a conscious community. And so that in itself has a transformational aspect, which is so powerful. And I'm sure you have had the same thing. So that was a long introduction of how I got
I
into
love it. I know. You're
it.
such a channel. I love it. Yes, I can feel some similar pieces in terms of like my spiritual work, my sacred work. You know, I was the founder of the Akashic Women's School, and I did that for 5 or 6 years. But and while I love that part of my path and being of service in that way, it and I am 47 and very similar. Like my rhythms are changing, and I was also noticing that it wasn't building towards anything. Being in more of the kind of coaching field, while it was very successful and I was still living, I felt rooted in feminine principles, spaciousness, rhythm, cycles, feeling, prosperity. I really felt like it wasn't building something. The growth wasn't there. And also just kind of ready for new support systems in terms of business to be able to hold me. And that was my same sense when I found Anagic as well, is that I felt like it was a vehicle for my purpose, for the next expression of my leadership, some place I could really grow and evolve, but that would also hold me the way that I want to flow and lean into even more of my own nourishment and more of my feminine power. So that piece felt really good. Have you noticed that as well? and actually I've heard you speak to this just even since December. And just hearing your story of how even more so you've kind of shifted into the joy, the spaciousness,
Mhm.
the that space of being and seeing things kind of open and blossom from that place. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and what you say is so true. It's we have so many gifts, and I know your work with the Akashic records. I am Akashic record reader also since 15 years, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I know that we all have these amazing gifts, and the gifts
Yeah.
are just pouring in. And a lot of us that have these beautiful gifts are struggling so much on this financial level,
Yeah.
especially as parents, but
Yeah.
also without even being a parent, to be really anchored in this society and to be able to bring our gifts forth. That requires to get out of the survival mode and to really shift
Yeah.
into the thriving mode. And
Hmm.
for me, when you say what changed, I think one of the things that really changed. So I had a car accident in December, and you know
I
that. So
know.
it really
Yeah.
shifted my whole life where I had a concussion and what they call a traumatic brain injury. And it completely laid me flat on my back for 2.5, 3 months. And the thing that really was like this cushion inside of me, the security cushion that was like, your business is still growing. You're not alone. You have a whole team. You don't have to worry about that part. It's not going away. It's not going anywhere. You're just taking a
Hmm.
little gap right now to take care of yourself. And the water was
Yeah.
amazing in this healing process. I mean,
Hmm.
so amazing to drink living water to get the brain back, because most people with a traumatic brain injury or a concussion, they have repercussions for years and sometimes for life. And what I realized was this water was, I was praying over the water as I do when I drink it, but I
Hmm.
also let it do its work. And what it does is, our brain is the one part that doesn't really get hydrated enough, and it
Mm.
doesn't store water, obviously, because the rest of the body all stores waters. Our organs store water, our whole body is water, but the brain doesn't store the water. So we need to have living water that is actually the most, I would say, conscious water, the clearest and cleanest, and also the purest water that brings the oxygen, but also the
Yeah.
information back to the brain cells. Because the water is called Kangen water for a reason, which means return to origin. We all
Mhm.
have a divine blueprint. Every human being has a divine blueprint. And
Mhm.
so many of us don't realize that the dehydration of this blueprint, if we don't put in what this blueprint needs to thrive, there are parts that just shrivel up. And in order to bring them back, one of the easiest things is actually living water, because we are made, some parts of us are made over 90% of water, but we are beings of water. We live on a blue planet, and we are entering the age of Aquarius, which is all about water. Water is the highest commodity on this planet, it's the most valuable element, because I mean everything is a valuable, all the elements, oxygen, and but the
Yeah.
element for us humans to survive, we can survive without food, we cannot survive without water. And just knowing that we have something that is bringing our bodies back to the original blueprint just by drinking it, we don't have to do anything else, just by drinking it. That for me was, just knowing this was such a, it was the security, but also this peace inside of me that came from that, where I knew my business is not going away. My team was still growing. I was still making money. I could rest. And
Mhm.
I knew that when I was going to come back, the wisdom that I had gained from all the things that happened during the accident, I could just bring it forth, because my business is me and I am my business. I don't have to show up with a mask and be like, oh, yeah, look at me. And when I was in a coaching business, that's what I did. We would talk, go in this house and make pictures, or drive this car and make pictures and show people, what's possible. And this water has brought me something very different, which wasn't the 3D or the material side, but really realizing that the water connects us to nature. And the most important part is to bring nature back to its original blueprint on this planet and to support nature, because without nature, we're nothing. Without nature, we're not going to have a planet.
Yeah.
Without nature, we're not going to be there. We are nature. This body comes from Mother Earth and it's
Yeah.
going to go back. It's going to be topsoil one day.
Yeah.
So why not take care of this? Because whatever I have is a gift. It's my temple from the divine. And so when I can keep this temple pure and when I can keep this temple the most expanded that it can be with the highest consciousness, why wouldn't I do this? And this water has the highest consciousness. The water that brings us back to our original blueprint, it has to have the highest consciousness. And Veda Austin speaks about this. Water has memory. Water has a different language. And the purer the water, the purer our bodies, the purer our brains, the purer our consciousness. So why would we not do that for us? And why would we not share this with the world? And I love that you have these interviews, because that's what this is about, sharing this with the world. And this for me is such a gift. Why would we? Bob Proctor always used to say, if you have something that you know is going to transform humanity, how dare you not share this? How dare you not go out and share this with others? That's how the transformation happens.
So beautiful. I love the connection to water in the brain. I didn't know that. And I think about the group that we're streaming into right now is matriarch and the prosperity path. And so it's for midlife women. There's so many changes going on, not just like hormonally, but with our brains. And so I can see how water becomes important through this midlife transition and just even hormonally and on so many other different levels. So thank you so much for sharing that. So beautiful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or speak to, in terms of this business model? And, my audience tends to be conscious mothers, midlife women, and how that can really serve and support them in their evolution and their vision for, oftentimes when I'm working with mothers, they want freedom. They really do want freedom
Yeah.
for themselves and for their
Yeah.
family.
And what I love about what you just said is that when you say the midlife, right?
Mm.
Midlife, for me,
Yeah.
also, we are midwives at this
Okay.
point in
I love
our
it.
life. At this stage in
Yeah.
our life, we become the midwife. We
Mhm.
become the midwife because we're going towards the age of the crone,
Mhm.
the wise
Mhm.
woman, but we're
Yes.
also mothers. So we are the bridge. We are the bridge of wisdom. We are the bridge that basically speaks from the past into the future. And for me, having a business of the future is bridging what we have known and learned and going into something that is so precious, because we live in a 3D world. And although we also think, okay, money is not the most important thing. Well, I have been very wealthy in this life and I have lost everything. And I can tell you, it's not fun to have lost everything. And we want
Right.
to leave something for our children. And that's the midwife that wants to birth something new. And for me, the legacy income on this business
Yes.
is
Yes.
so important,
Mhm.
because I want my daughter to not have to go through the hardship that I went through.
Yeah.
And granted, we are here as the wisdom keepers and the mothers, and many of us, many, 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 and I would say about 100% of those women that are in their midlife and that are really waking up to the consciousness of something else,
Mhm.
we are doing a work that our children won't have to do, which is the generational trauma work. Because if we can cut this bond between the generational trauma from the grandparents and the ancestors that had to struggle and strive, and money is hard, and being a woman is hard, when we can transform this, then our children don't have to do the work. So just
Mm.
being the midwife for that and using a conscious business model with a conscious community, weaving all of this together between the finances and the wisdom, the consciousness and the health, that is such a beautiful tapestry that we're offering. And that really, for me, is one of the most beautiful things in this community that we are, well, I think we're about 85 to 90% women in this business
Mhm.
because we're doing the work of letting go of the ancestral karma, shifting it, bringing in the prosperity and the wealth, and allowing it to flow into the future and growing it through our own wisdom. I mean, what else is there? For me, this is the
Mhm.
most beautiful work. It's not an easy work because a lot of
Mhm.
people do it, but they don't have a vehicle that helps them. As you
Right.
say, you can do
Yes.
your coaching work your whole life. You're never going to build legacy with it. But if you
No.
incorporate all of this into a conscious business, well, then
Mhm.
you can really thrive with this and help
Mhm.
families and become a servant and the bridge and the midwife for that. And I feel
Mhm.
that's really what this business is.
You spoke to that so beautifully. And in community, yes, absolutely. And I
Absolutely.
really get that too from so many women in the lineage of of us and the women that I'm being nurtured by, just, soaking up the wisdom of so many of that kind of that the midwifing happening.
Yeah.
Just holding that space for for me to kind of blossom and open and anchor this new paradigm of prosperity and freedom for me and my family. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining me today, Priya. I told you,
Absolutely.
if you're listening, if you're catching the replay, I told you she is such a beautiful wisdom channel. So I know that if you have stayed here with us, she will have illuminated something for you, and I would love to hear. Drop it below. What really popped for you from Priya's wisdom. I would love to hear. And of course, if you want to learn more, if this is calling to you, if it's resonating to you, drop an emoji below, drop the word freedom below, or even just reach out and message me. We can have a conversation. Um, thank you so much. Was there any last or final words that you'd like to share? Does that feel complete for you? Yeah.
I think if I have one word to say, it's when you see the opportunity, don't let it pass because it doesn't come every day. And there is something just in being with people that are on that frequency, on that consciousness every single day with that water that changes you. So that
Yeah.
would be my advice for people that are
That's
listening.
amazing. I have to say too, I saw this opportunity and I kept putting my foot on the brake. And every time that happened, my business would slow down. Even, yeah, like I'd watch the opportunity and then I even put like an initial kind of like investment, but I still was kind of like not really in. And then everything would like slow down in every other kind of aspect of my life. And then I was like, hey, Tara, let's just do this. There's so much beauty here. And I really had to open to receive the joy and the ease that comes from this collective. Um, and it was a piece of resistance for me. And I feel like I've been pretty good at play and pleasure in my business, but I was still like fighting that piece. So yeah, so if this is speaking to you, yeah, definitely reach out. So thank you so, so much. And I will talk to you very soon. I'm going to stop the stream and